With me now is Regan Watts, conservative political analyst. Good morning. Good to have you with us.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
So what is your reaction to how the Conservative leader responded to the news?
Well, I think Conservative Party, it should be noted, and it has for many years been quite aggressive in its posture towards the Iranian regime and the Ayatollah. And that work started with Melissa Lantsman, who's a member of parliament from the Greater Toronto Area. Melissa's deputy leader of the party. And she has, along with Mr. Poilievre, driven Conservative policy and politics on this issue. And so I thought the leader, Mr. Poilievre, his statement was consistent with where the Conservatives have been for some time. The only thing I thought was missing was calling for some regime change, and I'll note that the Prime Minister's statement also didn't say that either. But what we heard from the Conservatives yesterday was not much of a surprise, because the party's been pretty consistent, as I say, in part because of Melissa Lantsman.
All right, let's talk about the Prime Minister's statement. Carney came out yesterday and issued support for the Iranian people while also standing by the United States' action against the government. We have a clip of that. Let's take a look.
The Islamic Republic of Iran is the principal source of instability and terror throughout the Middle East. It has one of the world's worst human rights records and must never be allowed to obtain or develop nuclear weapons. Canada and our international partners have called consistently upon the Iranian regime to end its nuclear program, including at the G7 summit in Kananaskis and with the United Nations reimposition of sanctions this past September.
So your thoughts on that statement, and I'm also curious how you think Canada's role in this situation could evolve.
Well, I have to say it is a welcome change, the Prime Minister's statement, compared to what we had previously under Prime Minister Trudeau and his team. You know, in 2020, there was a flight 752 that was flying from Tehran to Ukraine, where 55 Canadian citizens and I think 30 permanent residents were killed when an Iranian missile hit that plane. It took then Prime Minister Trudeau and his government 4 years to recognize the Iranian regime as a terrorist entity. What we saw yesterday from the Prime Minister was clarity on a stage and a level that we have not seen in this country for some time. It was very welcome. I think the Prime Minister was very clear-eyed about his statement, and you could see his fingerprints on it. I think one thing to note, though, that he's getting some criticism on, and I'm not sure that's particularly fair, was, you know, he gave the speech in Davos, which I was on this network talking about several weeks ago, and one of the things in that speech was the Prime Minister said we need to see things as they are, not as we wish them to be, or a paraphrase of that. And I think his statement and his support of President Trump and the positioning of the government of Canada as a result of yesterday's attacks is entirely consistent with that position. And so, you know, the Prime Minister, I think, served Canada well yesterday. You know, when I speak to Iranian Canadians, I was with a friend of mine, Elnaz, yesterday afternoon, who remarked that not only did she appreciate the Prime Minister's statement, but was overjoyed at the death of the Ayatollah. So I think the Prime Minister, generally speaking, as he has for the last little while, continues to hit the mark, and his statement was a continued reflection on that.
All right, some really good context there. Regan, thank you so much for being with us.
Have a great weekend.
You too. That's Regan Watts, conservative strategist and former conservative advisor.